In standard notation part 1, we looked at how the position of notes on the stave determines the pitch of different notes, as modified by the key signature and accidentals. In this lesson, we're going to look at how duration or time value is conveyed in standard notation. Now, the longest note that we use in modern music is called a semibreve or whole note. Next comes the minim or half note. Two minims have the same duration as one semibreve. Half a minim is a crotchet or quarter note. There are 4 of these to a semibreve or whole note. Half a crotchet is a quaver or 8th note. There are 8 of these to a semibreve or whole note. And finally, the shortest note commonly found in written music is a semiquaver or 16th note. As you might have guessed by now, there are 16 semiquavers to a semibreve or whole note. Quavers and semiquavers often appear grouped together like this. Basically, this makes it easier to read when there are a lot of them. So the whole system has a neat logic to it, with each note being worth half the duration of the one above it. Here they are all in one diagram that shows their equivalence. Notice that each line in the diagram has the same total duration. But as well as notes that you hear in music, standard notation also has to show rests, periods of silence in between notes. So for every note there's an equivalent symbol or there's a rest symbol of equivalent duration. Now you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of new symbols to try and memorise, that's an awful lot of detail to remember. Well, the good news is you don't actually need to memorise all the detail. That's as long as you understand a couple of basic principles that we'll go over now. Here's an example of a fairly complex looking rhythm set out in standard notation. If you look at the beginning, right after the treble clef, is the time signature. This is a pair of figures that tells you how many beats there are to each bar or measure. Here we see the fraction 4/4. We call that 4/4 time. It means that each bar is divided into 4 equal beats and that each of those beats is equivalent to a crotchet or quarter note. Now, with this information alone, for almost every piece of music you're likely to encounter, you can usually use straightforward logic to work out the value of each note and rest. Let's just take you through our example to show you how we do this. The thing to remember is that when you add together the note and rest values in each bar, they must add up to 4. Look at the first bar. There is only one thing in it, and if it doesn't look like a note, then it's a rest. Those are the only 2 types of things you generally get. So this is a rest, and it must be worth 4 beats because it's all on its own in that bar. In the next bar we have a note and a rest, As they must add up to 4, and there isn't a single note symbol that is worth 3 beats, then logic dictates that the note and rest must each be worth 2 beats. In the next bar, we can see the same type of note, so that accounts for half the value of the bar. That leaves another note and a rest. They can only be worth 1 beat each. By continuing to apply this sort of logic to each bar, it is actually quite easy to work out the value of each symbol. Once you've completed this lesson, if you can find a music book of any description, give it a go. It's more fun than working out Sudoku puzzles. There are a couple more details to wrap up on the subject of note duration. These involve dots and ties. Now, a dot after a note or a rest simply extends its time value by 50%. That is to say, it increases its length by half as much again. So the dotted crotchet or quarter note is worth 1.5 beats, or the same as a crotchet plus a quaver. The dotted minim or half note is worth 3 beats, or the same as a minim plus a crotchet. Dots have the same effect when applied to rests. Sometimes a tie is used instead of a dot to extend the duration of a note. In the first example here, you can see that a minim tied to a crotchet is played exactly as a dotted minim would be. The second example shows how a tie is used to extend the duration of a note beyond the bar line. In both cases, it is important to realise that the note is only played once. The tie simply determines how long it is allowed to ring. Finally, we come to the subject of triplets. Now, sometimes we want to make 3 notes last as long as 2 notes normally would. And this is what's referred to as a triplet. A triplet is indicated by a figure 3 placed over a group of 3 notes. It is normally counted one-hander, like this. So in 4/4 time, I might play, if I was playing it as 4 crotchets, 4 quarter notes, I would play 1, 2, 3, 4. If I take each of those beats and turn them into triplets, I would count it as 1-hander, 2-hander, 3-hander, 4-hander. So if I put those 2 bars together, here's one with the quarter notes, followed by one with the triplets. That's what triplets sound like. Okay, so that's it for now on the subject of note duration. Hope you found that interesting and useful. And as always, if you have any questions or comments on this or any of the other lessons, please don't hesitate to contact us. If you have any problems at all interpreting written music, again, don't hesitate to post a question and we'll always be glad to help out. Now in the next lesson, we're just going to wrap up some bits and pieces of detail really on the subject of standard notation. And then that'll be it on the subject for the time being. Okay, I look forward to seeing you in that lesson.